sir. You know what this is? This is that love. Yeah, you know I'm in that love.
Another QTR. We're looking at Colossians chapter 1 verses 16 now. We're done with Colossians 1, 15a and 15b. We already established that the reason why Paul has written this section or this unit is to prioritize and make Jesus Christ number one. He's already established that God is infinite, that you can't see him, but also he's established that he's the firstborn, he has the highest rank. Now we go into a section where he is the creator of all things. And in Colossians 1:16 it says, "For by him all things were created." And in that short passage, we need to have context and understand that this created in verse 16 actually lines up with verse 20. And I'll read it for you. It says, "And though through him to reconcile to himself all things, whether on earth or in heaven, making peace by the blood of the cross." Now this all things we see in verse 16 and all things as well. In heaven and earth, we also see that in verse 16. So Paul is making this connection where Jesus Christ is the creator of all things in heaven and all creation from the beginning of time. And also he's the creator of all things that are new in the second coming, after Jesus Christ raised from the dead. So what he's establishing among all authorities in heaven and earth, the whole spectrum, he has created all of those things. That's important for us as we reflect in our own lives. When we look around the world and look at created things, sometimes we take ownership of everything that we own. The materials, the games, the cars, houses, we consider it our own, although we didn't create it and we don't have true ownership over it. Even the money that your parents earned, it's something that is given by God. God has created this and created this order and created us as humans. Therefore, all created things are owned by God. And if that's true, our relationship to even created things changes and is different. When I first bought my first guitar to lead worship, it was a Taylor. It was a Taylor guitar. And I spent 3 months and saved my paycheck from working at Finish Line, selling shoes to get this guitar. I starved myself, I sacrificed just so that I can get this guitar. Although I bought the guitar with my money, since all things belong to God, that guitar actually also belongs to God. The money that I earned also belongs to God. And so when I first got my guitar, I dedicated my guitar that it would only glorify and worship God. It'd only be for him. And to this day, the first guitar that I got, not the gift that the youth group gave me for my wedding, but my first Taylor, only worship music has been played on that guitar because I dedicated it to him. Now, my perspective of things changed because I realized that all things that were created belongs to God. They're actually God's possession. And if we see all the surroundings and the materials that we have as God's belonging, we will treat them differently because they're for God and not for ourselves. It's a really important idea for us to have. Our education, our friends, our materials, our pencils, erasers, backpacks, all of these things, they belong to God. So for our application, we should want to and desire to really care for our material things as they belong to God. Steward them, care for them. Don't be irresponsible with them, but cherish them as they belong to God. When someone lets me borrow their car and it's their prized possession, I make sure that I'm extra careful because I know it doesn't belong to me, it belongs to somebody else. But even more deeper than that, these things, they belong to God. Therefore, we should be extra careful, thoughtful, and meaningful when we are taking care of our possessions, our things, our materials. This is how we give honor to God and also how we walk in a manner worthy of the Lord. This is what Paul is telling the church today through the book of Colossians, and something that we need to hear too. So take care of the belongings. They all belong to Jesus. I'll see you tomorrow.
Peace. Yes, sir. You know what this